Welcome back to my podcast. Thank you so much for clicking this. I am Aliki and this is my podcast Funny Girl Abroad, where I, the funny girl in question, talk about my experiences abroad and all the things that I have encountered. And today it's maybe the most downer of topics I have done so far. Loneliness. Now, is loneliness an inherent part of moving abroad? Absolutely not. You can be lonely wherever you are. You can be lonely right there, right in your own country, in your home bedroom. You don't have to inconvenience yourself in the slightest to experience the depth of human loneliness. However, it does happen when you move abroad that you are a little bit more vulnerable, let's say, to those feelings. They catch you a lot easier, you know. Um, you are away from your friends and family. You might not already have friends and family in the place that you are going. You are a lot more exposed. I mean, I looked about that online and it was crazy. It feels like every single person moving abroad asked to talk about their experience. It was basically loneliness. And of course, I know that myself. Absolutely. I mean, I moved abroad and I have never in my whole life felt so lonely as in the first months of living in Sweden, coming from Greece. I am from Greece. I'm talking now particularly for the people who move abroad and experience this kind of loneliness. You have done all those things. You have really worked very, very hard in order to put yourself in the position that you are, either with studying or applying to jobs or with just doing all the things around the move itself. And when finally you're in a position that you have set up your next few months or years or whatever, and you should be able to enjoy them, then you look up and there's kind of nobody there. And then you realize that all of this work is like the reward is that now you get to have to put in more work to make your social life or your personal life or your inner life or whatever lives, how many lives you have, to make them worth it as well. Work just creates more work, which is devastating. However, this is, of course, like I said, not a living abroad kind of thing. This is a human kind of thing. So I really believe that anyone can listen to this episode. And I honestly hope that you will find something in this that you can use for yourself, whatever is the circumstance of the loneliness that you are experiencing. And the reason why I wanted to talk more about this is because when I was in this situation with the most intense loneliness, I really felt that there was like a gap in the kind of advice, information, or just, I don't know, this description even, or how we talk about this, the kind of approaches to those feelings of loneliness. It felt absolutely like nobody understood me. Absolutely nobody. So it actually made me feel even more lonely. If you think about it, looking up like on the internet or talking to people about ways to deal with my loneliness just made it worse. When it comes to talking about this, I have seen particularly two main, let's call them approaches, two main approaches for loneliness. Whatever I have seen, looked, read, it felt to me that there were most things I found I could categorize in those two big umbrellas. Let's call them like big approaches around how to deal with loneliness. And those were like this. On the one hand, we have the extrovert, I'm gonna run away from loneliness as fast as I can type of approach. Let's call this umbrella the I'm gonna do everything I can to avoid loneliness. I'm gonna run from it with my best shoes as fast as I can. This means as long as you can run faster than loneliness, you're good. You don't have to worry about it. It's basically, advice about how to be more social, how to make friends, even worse, a little bit sometimes of some type of judgment for like, well, maybe you shouldn't put yourself in situations that make you feel really, really lonely, that trigger those feelings of loneliness if you can't handle it. Or, well, maybe there's something wrong with you. Maybe there is something wrong with you, or you would have a ton of people around you, actually. Well, you know, maybe there is something wrong. You have to consider sometimes when you're in this situation, you tend to already be a little bit in a sad mood or a little bit melancholic, and that can actually push you to perceive things as negative, right? So you look at this, you look at all of this advice, all of this like how to do stuff, how to do this, how to do that, how to make more friends, how to meet somebody, how to be social and friendly, and tips and all of those things. And it's more likely that you can perceive them as some type of judgment. Like, you didn't learn them in school, you're gonna learn them now. You're gonna learn them the hard and slow way, but you're gonna have to learn them. All of those tips are extremely nice and very helpful, and I'm sure they have helped a lot of people. Did not help me though, and I'll tell you why. It's kind of a funny reason actually. The reason why they didn't help me is because I am actually very social to begin with. It's kind of, there's an assumption if you are a social person, then you should be fine. There's tons of information about teaching you how to be like more like that, but in the end, this is not necessarily the solution. For once, it takes longer to connect deeply with people who are from a different culture. It's gonna take a longer time to get to know each other under the surface, to kind of overcome your personal bias against the other culture, and that just takes a ton of time and also requires a lot of effort and persistence that not everybody is always willing to put in. And then, okay, I will do my absolute best to say this in a way that does not come off insulting, but it will still come off insulting. Watch me. So, I moved to Sweden. Now, being social in Sweden, to my eyes, to my understanding, is not an extremely popular behavior. The vibe is a lot more cool, okay? It's about being cool. You know what I mean? Relaxed. No big deal. Kind of nonchalant sort of vibe. And a lot of other places also have this kind of vibe. And in this case, if you have moved from a different culture, but from a similar vibe, you might find it easier to adjust. I am the least nonchalant person ever. I scare people with how excited I am. This is my level of excitement. People meet me and then they're scared. And then they run away. And then sometimes they get to know me slowly and sometimes not. It's a lot. It's a lot. I understand that. You are being extroverted and social, and you are hoping at least that this is going to signal to others that you are open, that you enjoy connection, that you enjoy people, that you enjoy talking to others. But what I saw in Sweden is that very often when you are like that, the signal you're sending is that you are trying to scam somebody. That you are selling something. So many times I can remember being in like a social setting and just feeling extra extroverted or happy to talk to people, or a little bit enthusiastic to get to meet or to have some chats, and looking around and just feeling, I can literally sense it. I can sense people tensing up to me, tensing up to my intentions. I can literally see when I turn and look at somebody sometimes, I can see the fear in their eyes immediately for the possibility that I might talk to them, I might ask them a question. Maybe I will ask them a difficult question. That's a bad one. Maybe I will ask them a question about themselves, and then they will be forced to talk about themselves. Even just the way you smile. I mean, you smile to somebody, and the second your lips stop touching each other, the second teeth joins the smile, you have transformed from a friendly person to a potential scammer, to a threat, to someone who's about to sell you something, and not just sell you something, oversell you something, sell you something that you don't need for 5 times the price. The second you go from, okay, you have to look at the video now if you're listening to this. The second you go from to it's over. I'm sorry. This whole umbrella, this whole approach of like becoming more social in order to battle loneliness did not quite work for me. And then we make it to the second umbrella, which is exactly the opposite, which is about how feeling lonely is normal, it's human, it's the only sane option. What is the point? You are alone anyways. You are alone all the time. Even if you are not alone today, that's an exception. Okay, you're gonna be alone tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, definitely sometime in the future. So, this is nothing, it's nothing to fight against. This is just, find a way, deal with your feelings, stop being needy, pick up a book. Okay. I hope this helps. Really. That is a little bit much for me, honestly. For many years, I did not even consider the benefits of spending time alone. It didn't occur to me that this is a nice thing to do. I just didn't grasp the concept. I was always thinking that, well, if I am with other people, I'm there too, right? It's not like I go away and then hang out with other people and then other people leave and then I meet myself again and then I'm like, hey, you, I missed you. Where have you been all this time? It's a bit too dark. And again, even though it is technically true and it's a quite, deep, I suppose, and meaningful realization and understanding, when you actually are experiencing those feelings, and especially if you are experiencing them for the first time or more intense as usual or all those things, the way you even perceive this is altered. So you don't perceive this as a philosophical thing, or you can perceive it as just giving up on other people, almost giving up on life itself. It can get dangerous for you. So this is why, again, I felt that I really wanted to share this experience. Because I've been in this position of having those two different forces almost, I felt them as forces, fight over me. And they both felt like not the right thing to do. So none of those approaches helped. So what helped eventually? Let's see. One thing that helped, the first thing that helped actually, was to just recognize the feeling of loneliness, because it's a quite complicated feeling. It's what how would you describe loneliness? What does loneliness feel like? Exactly. It's not easy to describe. How do you know then that you're lonely? And I'm serious. I'm asking seriously. You usually say, well, I'm sad and I'm also alone, so I suppose one must be because of the other. But that's not really the case, or at least not necessarily the case. So again, how do you know? It's very specific. It's very specific for you. So you have to really come to recognize this in yourself so you can recognize it when it happens. I remember feeling a little bit sad, a little bit bored, and also even having all those thoughts about my family and friends and people that I left, not quite feeling like I can connect with all the people that I was around, and having all of those things, all those feelings and thoughts. I mean, I was ticking every single box for being lonely, and still I could not just recognize it, not admit it. It's not like I was too ashamed to admit it or something. It's just, I just couldn't recognize it. I was wondering if, there's something else. If I'm getting some mood swings from the dark, which is also definitely true, or if I'm eating too much fish and it's messed up my belly, and I'm feeling weird because of that. Because I didn't eat that much fish, probably they eat a lot of fish in Sweden. So all sorts of random different things. Before I could just put two and two together. If you learn one obvious thing like this, like recognizing when you're lonely, is so amazing for you, because then you won't blame being alone for being sad unnecessarily if that is not the case. You will know when to act against it, you will know when to roll with it. I'm just generalizing now, but you get the point. So, after I have recognized the loneliness and I know that I feel lonely, what do I do then? What helps me then? The only thing that actually helped me there, the only perspective also that helped there, was to think about doing things that help me build a better relationship with myself. Because this is something that feels proactive and kind of positive to you. And like I said, I never thought much for spending time with myself, but that meant that maybe I had taken it for granted. Maybe all the time that I spent with myself, I didn't think much of. I didn't properly appreciate it. I didn't put enough effort in it. I didn't get out of my way to make it extra special. I just spend it, no big deal. So when you are in this situation that you're feeling very lonely, you have the opportunity. It is an opportunity actually to do that, to see that, and to do something about it. Imagine if you have a friend and you always do the exact same things and you are extremely boring around them and you never bring anything new to discuss or to do. You never are go the extra mile, go out of your way to be extra nice to them or to do something special for them. Well, that relationship isn't gonna go very well. And the same goes for yourself. It's just hard to see it that way. At least it was for me. So it's not just about doing stuff, it's about creating excitement and being nice when you're making mistakes and when you're messing stuff up. And in that sense, living abroad and moving abroad is actually the perfect setup for this, because this is exactly what happens. You have a ton of exciting new experiences, positive or not so positive, combined. So I will not really tell you tips about what to do, because it doesn't really matter. I can tell you to go to the museum or go have a picnic or whatever, but it doesn't really matter. First of all, maybe you do all those things anyways. But what matters is that you find those things that make you feel a little bit excited, but maybe you are a little bit embarrassed or a little bit or feel a little bit awkward about doing on your own, but you would feel comfortable doing with somebody else if somebody else was to come with you. Those exact things are going, I believe, to enrich so much your experience with yourself. So you should do that. I'll tell you my story from one of those experiences that I have that was not very nice, as a matter of fact. It was not nice at all. And I'm actually feeling pretty embarrassed to have to share it. I kind of sort of don't want to do it, but I will, because it's a bit funny. I think it's gonna help you with also putting the bar really, really lowly for you to pass easily and with grace over. You will definitely think to yourself, oh sure, I can do this thing I was thinking about, because it's not gonna be that bad. When I was in the first, I think, month or couple of months of having moved to Sweden, I decided that I wanted to go dancing. It was one Saturday evening, I think, and I was coming from home from work, and it's just this kind of vibe in that day that it feels like everybody's moving, everyone's going somewhere. There's just this kind of liveliness, and I felt like I wanted to go dancing, but I didn't have anyone to go dancing with. So, and this is one of those things that I've never done this alone. I've many times went to like the movie theater or to the theater or to like museums, where I'm kind of consuming stuff alone. But dancing, and this is a very social thing, like a dance or a bar or a restaurant are like social things, and this I was not in the habit of doing alone at all. So I decided to do the proper thing and the optimistic, I suppose, thing, and let me ask just in case. And I sent a text to my university's group, the chat group that I had with the other students, because I thought, well, I have met all of them. I'd be happy to go with any of them if they want to, and I'd be so happy to meet and get to know more of any one of them. So I sent a text and I said basically that I want to go dancing, and if any of them wants to join me, or if they were already planning something like this and want to include me, either way I would be very happy. And of course nobody was up for that, which now in hindsight I absolutely can understand because people of course definitely have plans, and not everyone is like, oh yeah, sure, let's just grab an extra person because they don't have anyone to hang out with. This is something that I would do, but I understand that this is not very popular for a lot of other people to do. I mean, also, even if people don't have plans, they kind of want to say that they have plans. And I thought that, well, then I'm gonna do as I said and I'll go by myself. I've never gone dancing by myself before, but that's a new experience. And you know what? Maybe that's better. Like, just because I haven't done it before, it doesn't mean it's gonna be bad. There's so many songs about like dancing on your own and dancing like no one's watching and all those things. It feels like the perfect thing for somebody like me to do. And also, I mean, sure, you go to the club with your friends, but then as you're dancing and yes, you're like just enjoying the environment, not everyone is dancing with their friends, right? I mean, I've seen people go dancing with their friends and then being so embarrassed by how their friends are dancing, they just slowly turn around and pretend like they don't know them. I've seen stuff like that, okay? They're happening. They're happening every day. So, maybe no one will even notice that I am there on my own. Like, honestly, it won't matter. I look around and I find this very nice club that looks very cool, and like, and this club is called, and I'm serious about this, you can look it up, the Slaughterhouse. The Slaughterhouse in Swedish, of course. It didn't stop me in the least. I was like, ooh, that sounds so cool. And you know what, I mean, to have the confidence to name a place the Slaughterhouse, like it has to be really cool. It has to be really good also. It has to be really safe. It's probably in a very good area. I look it up on Google Maps. And the area is called the Slaughter area. It's the Slaughterhouse in the Slaughter area. So, I don't know. Yeah, it's getting harder and harder to maintain this level of optimism, but I can still do it. I can still persuade myself that the slaughterhouse in the slaughter area is actually great. It's a very safe space. And you know what? Honestly, if I was to slaughter somebody, I would never be that obvious and do it in the slaughterhouse, in the slaughter area. Like, are we serious right now? Who would be that obvious? And even if somebody was actually that obvious, and there were a number of consecutive slaughters in the slaughterhouse, in the slaughter area, wouldn't somebody have thought to change the name, to call it something else, to call it, I don't know, the red house, the green house, the yellow house, the something else house? And then people would say, it's the old slaughterhouse, but they changed. So I get up excited, happy, I put on my nice dress, happy, um, ready to party, girl abroad, going, and I go to the slaughter area, and it was exactly how you would imagine a slaughter area to be like. It was super creepy, it was dark, I could hear my steps on them on the street old buildings, like something of a smell. It was, I mean, it could be a running slaughterhouse for all I know, like that was a lot. But still, maybe the slaughterhouse is, a super cool underground hidden place. And this whole setup is just, building up the tension, preparing you for when you will go inside and it's gonna be like, pow! You're gonna join the utopic crazy world of the slaughterhouse. And I looked around, I looked around and I could not find the slaughterhouse. I know, I can hear myself too. I looked everywhere I could. I went in circles. I looked for signs. I had Google Maps on my hand and just like it should be here. It should be here. Nothing. It was just nothing. I don't know. There are some places in Google Maps that are like, you know, untouched by the power, by its power. They just don't work. I felt so bad. Just so bad and so upset and so embarrassed and a bit scared also. Like I could probably, run around and try to find somebody to ask, but it did not look good for me. It was dark, it was scary, I don't know who was there, it's the slaughter area. I mean, come on now. All this optimism didn't lead me anywhere good anyways. So I just decided to just go back as soon as I can and then do something else with my evening. I think maybe I went to a bar or something, I don't remember really. That was a failure all around. It was not only a failure because I wanted to have a nice night out and completely failed to have the place, to even find the place. Not only because I put myself in a situation that didn't feel very comfortable, actually felt a little bit scared at some point in the end, and also, I mean, weirdly, this pressed on maybe my more like deep insecurities of why I actually do need other people in my life all the time, which is that I am a little bit, let's say, distracted. And I have some difficulties with stuff that is practical, practical stuff, like where things are and what things cost and how things open. Doors, for example, I can't focus around doors. The doors stress me out, really. I know you're probably thinking, like, what are you, 3 years old? Like, you don't know how a door works? It's a handle, that's it. And then you use your body to, like, do I have to explain to you how a door works? And, I hear you, but that's not how all doors work. There's many doors out there. Many. And they open in all sorts of different ways. And there is no warning and no manual for them. They just sit there. There's doors that you open and then they close by themselves. You open the door and then it goes like pa, and you're like, wow, I'm so sorry. I thought I was gonna finish the job. Didn't expect this to happen. So sorry. All good. Then there's doors that open by themselves and then close by themselves, but those are easy. This is just this classic supermarket kind of door. Very polite door, just lets you in, closes. I don't complain about them. Sometimes I get a bit startled, but that's all. But there's other doors. There's other doors that they look like you should open them manually, like they have a handle and everything. But when you go, they open by themselves. Suddenly. And you're like, okay, fine. Well, thank you for opening. I mean, that was very nice. I didn't expect. I was a bit startled, to be honest, but I appreciate the gesture. You pass by the door stays open. Then you decide, well, maybe I should try to close it because it's not closing by itself. It was closed before. I found it closed, so I guess it should be closed. But now it's just staying open. Then you go, you start pressing the door to close it. Doesn't close. Doesn't want to close. But no. Doesn't want your help. Doesn't want your contribution. It's almost like door's pissed at you. You leave the door, you move. Now the door is open. Now people are complaining about the temperature. Congratulations, you've ruined it for everybody. How did I end up in this hole? How did I end up talking about doors in such extent and with that much passion? I have no idea. But yeah, I was talking about how these kind of practical things can make it very easy for me to beat myself over because I get distracted and those things can happen to me. So that's very easy to beat myself about and be like, oh well, if I was with somebody else, this would have never happened to me. They would know better than taking me to this place, or they would be able to actually find it. I guess I went to one of those places that are like the hidden cool place that it's so hidden and nobody knows about it and it's so cool and you will find it and stuff. And I don't think I should ever do these places. Like they're too hidden for me. They're so hidden that I cannot find them. So never, never again. Okay, I should only do the obvious places. Like the most obvious places to go to in Stockholm, the most obvious club in Stockholm that everybody knows about and everybody knows where it is. And even if you stop somebody on the street and you ask them, they're gonna know to tell you how to go there. This is a list that I should be looking into. It's important in this case to kind of stay nice to yourself and compassionate and not beat yourself over whatever it is. I mean, this is my thing. You probably have a different thing. But but the truth is that even if you do, it's fine because it's gonna pass. So of course I was extremely upset at myself at this time, and I was negative. I was sad. I was upset. I did not like myself that evening. But next day I was a little bit proud for having done all those little steps that maybe I wouldn't have done under other circumstances. And now it's just a funny story. It's just I say to myself, "Oh, you remember when you dragged me in the middle of the night at the slaughterhouse in the slaughter area and you couldn't even find the slaughterhouse?" Ah, well, it's fine. I love you though. It's okay. Please, if you have a story like this, write it and then maybe I'll get to read it for the next episode or something like that. I hope that you enjoyed this and I hope that I was able to offer even the tiniest bit of support in this, if you are in this situation, if you're experiencing feelings of loneliness right now. It's gonna be okay and you will come out of this even stronger and a lot stronger, but it is on you to do that. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Thank you so much for staying until the end. And again, please let me know for any feedback or any thoughts. I would love to know who you are, who's watching, if I have managed to reach other people that are living abroad. That would be the best for me. Enjoy your week, enjoy the time that you spend with yourself, and I will see you later. Bye!